In this video, I want to have a look at solving monic quadratic equations. So just a reminder that monic quadratic equations have an x squared, or the squared term, having a coefficient of 1. So for example, we've got a 1x squared, a 1b squared, or a 1m squared. Now the way that we solve these equations is by factorising that left-hand side, and then we can go from there. So if we have a look at this one, I use the PSF method when I'm doing these. So remember, we want a product of this constant term on the end, so a product of 6, a sum of the coefficient of our x term, so a sum of 7. So in this problem, our factors that would multiply to give 6 and add to give 7 would be 6 and 1. So then we can set up our problem like this. We've got an x and an x in our brackets, and the numbers that we're going to add in there are a positive 6 and a positive 1. Now once we've factorised, we now have two things that multiply together to give us a 0. The only way that can happen is if at least one of them is equal to 0. So we could have x plus 6 is equal to 0, or we could have x plus 1 is equal to 0. Now once we've got that, we've got two equations and we're going to go through and solve them. So this one we'd end up with x equals minus 6, and here we'd have x equals minus 1. Now we've got two numbers. They both satisfy this equation, and you can always double check by substituting back into the original. For our second example, we've got b squared minus 2b minus 8 equals 0. So again, starting off with PSF. Now our product this time is a negative 8. Our sum is a minus 2. So in this one, our two numbers would be a minus 4 and a positive 2, because they'll multiply to give minus 8 and they'll add to give minus 2. So that means our brackets are going to become b minus 4, b plus 2 is equal to 0. Now again, we're going to set each of those brackets equal to 0. And then we can solve both of those. So our solutions to this one are going to be b equals positive 4 or b equals minus 2. All right, one last example. Again, starting off with PSF, just somewhere off to the side. This time we're going to want a product of positive 15 and a sum of minus 8. So in this one, we'd need a 5 and a 3 to get our 15, but to get our negative 8, they would both have to be negative numbers there. So that means we're going to factorise to m minus 5, m minus 3 is equal to 0. Now writing both of those separately. And then we can go through and solve both of those. So we'd have m equals 5 or m equals 3. Now just a reminder again that we can check those by substituting each one in here. And when you put in 5 squared minus 8 times 5 plus 15, you will get 0. And you can do the same thing with the 3 as well. So if you're answering these sorts of questions in an exam, you can always know whether you've got it right or wrong. So let's have a look at solving monic quadratic equations.